Are you ready? Oh boy, are you ready? Hello everybody, are you ready? Welcome to another episode for the end of the game. So in this part, this might be one of the shortest, most of the episodes of this series have been around the 2-hour mark because, we were doing the live format. I'm thinking in this one, well, I don't know, maybe we can tack a bit of DLC progress on to the end, I guess we'll see. Yeah, today we are finishing Shadow of the Tomb Raider, and it's weird, man. I've never done a Let's Play where it's like I actively dislike, so much of what's going on, so we'll see how this commentary goes. The story as it currently is an apocalypse is in progress. Amaru, our nemesis, the leader of Trinity. Remember how there was all this intrigue about Trinity in the previous two games? Well, and then at the start of this game, well, we just met the leader of Trinity instantly. They actually, I think, have a pretty interesting character in that guy. But now, we're going to be... He's like the big final issue of the game, going to be the final boss fight, and we'll see what happens there. He has the dagger and the box. With it, he wishes to remake the world. What exactly he's going to do, we can only speculate. I like the idea he tried to bring his brother back to life. Like, some of that and the stuff about Sayuri is probably the best story in the game, but you only really find it in the documents. So what's he going to do? Who knows? But remember, his whole motivation is to protect Paititi. He's the head of Trinity, but who themselves are like this ancient, magnificent order filled with all this other history and stuff. But he's kind of just using them as a means to an end to protect Paititi. So, hey, but he's the bad guy, okay? That's what we need to know. And, we're going to go with the people of the town to attack this rebel force, and or I guess we're the rebel force. This is the last of Etsy. Obviously, we saw this cutscene at the end of the last episode, and now I'm just commentating over it muted because it gives me a bit of time to talk, since the upcoming section is going to be so short. And also, yeah, I kind of cheated a little bit. I was totally going to record this with live commentary, but what I did last night is I played through the end of the game off screen, I say that in air quotes, just to sort of remember exactly what was going on with it. And I recorded just in case something fun would happen. And I figured, you know what? Let's just show this footage. So I'm going to post commentate the end of the game here. That way I can pause and we can talk about stuff as we go. Number one being actually that I do get all my achievements here. You'll see some achievement pickups and procs on Steam. We do get the 100%, which is quite nice as you unlock, the odd artifact or whatever as we go along. The other side of this, though, is just due to weird oddness with how I've recorded all of this. You remember at the end of the last episode, I bought all of those perks and I crafted those outfits. I actually don't have those unlocked. So, and we're on the hardest difficulty mode. I've basically made this as hard as it possibly can be for me. I have limited ammo. And well, here we go. So you can see on the map, it's called the City of the Serpent, the last area. We are technically in the volcano. I guess the idea is that they built a volcano inside... they built a pyramid on the inside or the underside of this volcanic area, which is a really amazing idea. I would have loved some pickups talking about the architecture of that. There's essentially nothing actually as far as pickups are concerned now. You can press E on the odd thing, but it will be like ingredients for a potion, a perception mix, something along those lines. So there you just saw I got some coral off of the ground. And I actually found that kind of liberating, to be honest. These whole collectathon Ubi games, as they call them, Ubisoft-style experiences where there's just pickups everywhere to extend the playtime, I think I've really fallen out with love with recently. I'll tell you what, guys, if you ever hear me on a stream or something considering Let's Playing a Ubi game, warn me off of it. I don't care how many years in the future it is. Warn me off, because what's going to happen is I'm going to want to play that game, and then I'm going to want to get all the collectibles, and it's going to completely change the pace of the game, as you stop constantly pressing, mashing survival instincts, looking around all the time. So yeah, we could just kind of swim through here, and it is pretty, okay? Everything we're about to play is pretty. I will never take that away from Shadow. I think it's a gorgeous game. Yes, it's kind of buggy with the visuals and stuff, and a lot of its competition is also very pretty, so, is it really that unique of an asset? But it is pretty. I love the look of the lava here. I love these vents, which I actually think would be melting and destroying Lara to swim anywhere near in real life. You got lots of falling debris. A cool little moment to just sort of sit back and enjoy. And actually, I gotta say, this was super refreshing to play, having just grabbed so many pickups for so long, consulting maps for so long, spamming survival instincts. It's nice to just sort of lean back when it's paced out well. Of course, if we'd skipped all of that, we would have been here, within 4 or 5 hours of starting to play the game, maybe a little bit later if you're generous. And I don't think it would have had the same impact.
Unbelievable. Jonah, I made it. I see the bridge. Shit!
They blew the bridge. We'll find another way around.
This is actually quite cool. I guess this isn't supposed to be this subtle, but if you look way off in the background there, you can see them blowing the bridge up. I guess this is where Jonah and co were going to march on, but because that's blown up, you basically won't see them in this entire action sequence here now. It is pretty cool. I like the helicopters in the area as well. Obviously, we sort of had a boss fight with a helicopter earlier in the game. And in terms of visuals, there's a lot of helicopter involvement as we go forwards here. I was totally expecting to fight another one.
Okay, do you see that red smoke?
Yeah.
I'm gonna check it out. Unuratu said that the Crimson Fire was her destiny.
Okay. Don't take too long.
So they mentioned the red smoke as well. I personally would have just assumed this is some kind of flare or, I don't know, smoke bomb or something that these commandos, the members of Trinity, are using. Just a part of the fight, maybe, you know, a fire or something. I wouldn't think it's particularly magical or an element of the ritual. If I was Lara, it would take me a hell of a leap to connect that in the adrenaline of the moment to a cryptic clue Unuratu mentioned ages before. But, so I do not swallow this story beat whatsoever, but so that's our goal, head to the Crimson Fire.
I'm gonna check it out. Unuratu said that the Crimson Fire was her destiny.
Okay. Don't take too long.
Yeah, and she's risking time and lives to do this.
Commander, this is Cardinal 2. The bridge has been taken out. Good. Team leaders coordinate with vehicular support. Cardinal 2, you're their eyes. Copy that. Remember, people, any structural opening is a potential enemy vector.
Ah, Cardinal 2. Remember who Cardinal 2 is, guys? You recognise the voice? That's Rourke. He doesn't even introduce himself as Rourke here. Okay, so remember that the big cliffhanger at the end of the previous game, I almost said episode there, the previous game, was who assassinated Anna and why? You know, it felt like they were building to a much more direct sequel that hooked into those recent story beats, and then how this game kind of just abandoned all of that, but in a piece of side information, we did essentially find out it was Rourke, and he's been lingering around, and we're wondering if we'll ever get vengeance. Where's that story gonna go? Well, it should be pretty clear to you guys at this point that this is not a particularly coherent story, and it does not build well upon the previous game. So Rourke's fate is going to be unveiled here. That's Rourke speaking there. We obviously have had a tiny bit of very basic platforming going on here as well. Because I have the perk to auto-grab whenever, you know, she does one of these dodgy jumps, I really am just holding forwards and, you know, tapping space every now and then as the visuals play around me. So now, you might have been wondering what's going on with the Ix-Chel as well.
Ix-Chel, Trinity.
Well, yeah, they're here in a big way. In fact, it's their fight more than the residents of Paititi, really.
Changing course heading to 105.
In principle, I do really like the idea of this setup here. If they had well established these were otherworldly, like undead creatures like the Oni, for example, in the previous game, the idea that now we're going to team up with them and we plus the Ix-Chel are going to slaughter all of these guys, you know, that's really fun to me. But whenever I've played this game in the past, and I guess we'll be playing the DLC soon to put this to light, I've always just sort of thought, oh, they're just another type of especially weird people with a strange culture. And somehow the fantasy of that isn't so fun. Also, yes, these guys with sticks and bows and arrows are going toe-to-toe with helicopters and armed gunmen.
The source of the smoke. I can reach it.
Pretty simple stuff to get down there. Just create a rope bridge. And when we land, there's going to be a huge cutscene. One I'll probably have to pause a few times just to talk about. So let's see what we got. Look, it's this lady again. The leader, ostensibly, of the Ix-Chel.
When the Crimson Fire smokes, seek your mirror. Was this Unuratu's destiny?
A destiny we, of course, have now inherited since she died. I can't remember if we heard her speaking before, but she speaks a little bit here and she sounds super creepy, very demon-like.
You're the Crimson Fire.
Aha, so yeah, that's kind of her name. If you see discussion about this online, that's the label that everyone gives this woman.
I think we're supposed to work together to defeat Kukulkan.
Like, whoa, I love that.
Ix-Chel.
Okay, so let's pause here for a second and chat because this is kind of a cool big moment. I love the way there at the end, Lara just asked, am I Ix-Chel? And she doesn't even really get a response. She just got like this tentative, quiet moment, and they don't put a point on it. But yeah, so let's talk about this. So the first thing really we saw at the very start of the game, if you remember, we exited after the little sequence in Mexico. There was the big full moon. We found the monolith. They talked about the Mayan goddess of the moon. We talked about this idea of this god, right, which has two faces. It is two gods. It is Ix-Chel and it is Chak-Chel. And we got all of those details. The knife maybe represents one, that the goddess, one half is death, the other is life. The knife being death, the box is the other, being life, maybe a box, a womb, or something like that. So you got this idea of Ix-Chel and Chak-Chel. And here at the end, they're saying, okay, this like doppelganger of Lara's, these two reflections, they're kind of like, it's almost like Mayan theater or something, right? Like they've stepped into the roles of this god in order to do the fight against Kukulkan soon. We're going to work together. And I kind of like this as a climax of the game, and I kind of like the idea of this story. But they're so hands-off with all of this that I always find it kind of difficult to enjoy in the moment, you know, like maybe I'm not fully getting it. Well, let me be clear again, guys. Remember we did this whole speech about it. Lara just said she's Ix-Chel, and of course the big question there is, or which one is that? Is Lara death? As in, you know, she's been on these rampages, killing all these people. That would kind of tie into this theme of revenge and that moment at the oil field where, you know, she just straight up knifed that guy. Is she death or is she life? You know, does she choose the past and her family and the death of her father and all that? Is that what defines her? Or is she life? And at the very end of this, okay, there's going to be a quote where Lara says, I want to be among the living. And I'm pretty sure, like, if we're going to get, like, lit nerd about this, I think they're kind of referring back to this moment where she is assigned Ix-Chel. She kind of only is Ix-Chel because the Crimson Fire has called themselves Chak-Chel. I think it'd be really interesting to see that flipped somehow. But yeah, they give Lara, you know, the role of the young woman, of life, of, you know, of Earth, of humans. And the Crimson Fire is the one of death here, is Chak-Chel. And remembering who is who and understanding who is who straight away off the bat kind of does improve a scene that's about to happen at the pyramid. So I'll step in with a commentary here to kind of help you guys out. But I tell you, every time I've played this, unless I've been seriously thinking about the game and watching it, I'm never entirely sure who Lara is supposed to represent. But yeah, keep this in mind. Lara is representing life. And what does that say about her future if she gets through this unscathed? Well, it's kind of pointing the way towards a happy ending, isn't it? So that's quite nice. One other minor topic here is now we see this other idea of a mirror. They just hinted at one with Ix-Chel and Lara. Well, what about this? We have the Crimson Fire. We have Ix-Chel and Chak-Chel, Lara and the Crimson Fire here. And there has been a bit of discussion online, and I don't think totally unwarranted, where people have said, oh, is she literally meant to be Lara? Are they really reflections? Like, is this a straight-up doppelganger? And I know that sounds weird because they look very different. Obviously, the Crimson Fire is full of body modification and stuff, but quite a few people have noted that, like, ethnically, the Crimson Fire actually does look quite a lot like Lara. And I don't know whether she's supposed to be a direct doppelganger or whether that really matters. What I do think, and what I will credit the writing staff for and all of this with this game, I think it is kind of a doppelganger thing, in as much as Tomb Raider's always been big on doppelgangers. Like, I think this is allusion to earlier eras of the franchise. If you guys don't know, because it's quite deep in the game, Tomb Raider 1 had a doppelganger. Tomb Raider 4 had a doppelganger encounter. Tomb Raider Underworld, I have a Let's Play of that on here, also, and you might not remember those story details too well, but also has a doppelganger in it. So I think that it's just meant to be, like, thematically close to some of the stuff they did in the previous games, but nothing too much deeper than that. Oh, and I guess while we're at it, another fun little topic to think about, and one of the big criticisms for this game is, okay, so the final stage is set now. Okay, we've got Amaru, or Dr. Dominguez, whatever you want to call him. He's kind of doing this performative role on behalf of Kukulkan. And then there's going to be us two performing the other half of the ritual, you know, in this big fight that's going to be coming up. And it's kind of funny to look at Lara here, a white girl from the UK, a complete outsider. It's like, this is weird. Why is she a part of this? Why are no residents of Petiti at all are actually a part of this? And it's funny because this game has been so careful and so conscious about that kind of stuff as it's gone along, and yet the main story wrote this big scenario in. Well, I think, again, maybe to the game's credit, there is kind of an idea here that actually all the idea of these gods to the Paititians, they're outsiders, right? They're these unknowable beings, and all three members of this like group now, Dr. Dominguez and us two, from the perspective of Paititians, we're all weirdo outsiders. Dominguez associated with Trinity. The Ix-Chel, they view them as strange demon-like creatures. They don't know much about the Ix-Chel. And then Lara as well. You know, these people are really closed off from the outside the world. They know nothing. So from their perspective, you know, we're all in the same basket. It kind of doesn't work because obviously Dr. Dominguez has been living among the Paititians and they know him very well. But there's this idea that we're all sort of actors playing this role in Mayan theatre. And, you know, I think that there's a kernel of something good in there. Like, really, really deep down, if you wriggle around enough for it, that's probably a satisfying story. But, you know, the $100 million budget and you get no time to breathe on all of this. This is just going to zap through in the cutscenes very quickly. I do think it's unfortunate, but this is a pretty impenetrable story. And you know what I noticed? So in the preparation of making this video, I decided, let's try to look at it. Let's look at the themes. Let's look at the story. Let's see what the discussion is online and see what kind of conversation is going on about this stuff. Maybe I can learn something and I'll warm to it and I can teach you guys about it in the video. But you know what I found? There's very little conversation going on about this stuff in this game. Like, really very few people in that arena. And you know what that tells me? That most people pretty much tuned off by this point and weren't thinking very deeply about it. Most people didn't want to do the work to find something to latch onto, and that's probably a sign of a poor quality experience. Most of us probably just assume that we missed some details or it's not quite for us, but it seems like something's maybe there, so we don't really scrutinize or get involved in the conversation, and I don't think that that's very good. I did find this poor sap on the subreddit 3 years ago saying that this game, as opposed to the previous two in the Survivor Trilogy, felt harder to follow and that the stakes felt lower, and he got like 9 comments, some of which were literally just taking the time to condescend his intelligence. No, you know, I think that the guy has a point. It's a little bit like doing serious, real analysis of Lost back in the day, like when you look at Lost Season 6. Things are just so convoluted and there's so little screen time. People who really sit down for that discussion are few and far between. And I think it's the same thing here in Shadow. It's just not long enough, or it doesn't have enough cutscenes, or I don't know. Let me know in the comments what you think about any of this. So there you go. Just a bit to talk about, and you'll have to excuse me for pausing in the middle of a lovely cutscene here. I'll shut up now, and we'll see how this plays out. You can probably imagine we're about to go into a boss fight. I was somewhat expecting as well that the boss fight would actually feature the both of us fighting Amaru. It doesn't. It's a bit like the sniper sequence. It's about a bit like the idea of Jonah being involved. It's a bit like the idea of Ix-Chel being involved. Or, you know, who's that woman back at the camp in Skull Cave as well? She also felt like she was going to be a bigger part of the game. No, it's basically going to be a 1v1. But, you know, the Ix-Chel are helping. And believe me, they do help, actually, to a ridiculous, frightening level. So check this out. I mean, I cannot discredit the ambience on this. This is awesome. I really love just the crowds of Ix-Chel letting us pass. They've accepted that we're in this role. Obviously, we don't understand what they're saying, and even in the subtitles, we don't get to understand what they're saying. I did find myself watching that cutscene just now very curious and exactly what the Crimson Fire said to us towards the end, because we could communicate a little bit when saying the gods' names. This giant door is kind of awesome to me, for a stupid reason. In Tomb Raider 2, there's this really long level, Barkang Monastery, where you get a bunch of prayer wheels to open a door. And the whole way through the level, you see this big round door. And when you finally think you're going to open it, it just turns out to be this crappy little hatch on the side, because they clearly couldn't animate it opening. And it feels like in this game, it's like, oh, I finally get that experience.
Jonah, change of plans. I'm bringing reinforcements.
What? I hope you know what you're doing.
Me too.
It's a change of plans. It's weird to think of the alternate scenario, in which case we just went off to snipe people here. So yeah, we got the achievement. Dr. Croft, collect all artifacts. And curious about why it popped there, I went into Lara's notebook, and I did find this extra pickup, and it's a good one.
The Ix-Chel are the descendants of the creators of the key of Chak-Chel and the silver box of Ix-Chel.
Once again, as with many of these, we're getting information here told to us that Lara apparently now knows. How did she learn this? There's no moment in the game where she actually learned that detail, that they are the descendants of the people who specifically made it. I mean, how did she figure that out? She divined it from her facial expression? Was it through osmosis, because she was just in a ridiculously huge crowd of them? Was there once a moment where, you know, that was cut out, where maybe we could press F on a bunch of them and they'd teach us stuff, but then due to rewrites later on, they decided these guys can't speak to make them seem more alien, and the whole sequence changed, but we still needed the pickup? I don't know, I'm down the rabbit hole here.
In the centuries since Lopez stole the box 400 years ago, they lost their purpose. Now they protect the site where the ritual of the silver box will take place. Even though their minds have faded, their purpose remains intact. They will fight and repel anyone entering the holy city of the serpent. They are led by a priestess known as the Crimson Fire. She represents Chak-Chel, and along with Ix-Chel, she is charged with completing the ritual of the silver box and guiding Ix-Chel in her sacrifice of the sun's power. Once it is completed, the Crimson Fire and all the Ix-Chel will return to the heavens, where the key and the box were forged.
Okay, so it is good, despite my criticisms there, it is good information, and that thing there, that once everything's done, they'll return to the heavens, that these really are otherworldly creatures, well, that, I believe, is going to be the story of the DLC.
Commander, we have eyes on Croft. She's with the Ix-Chel. She's what? Don't get distracted. Take her out.
So again, I think that was Rourke speaking there. These poor, like, mercenaries, I wonder what they're actually thinking of as this is going along. They're just trying to protect their boss while demon people assault them, and he's just trying to do some ritual or something. I think in a minute they have a good little bit of dialogue where they say, oh, people who persevere will be rewarded once the ritual is done.
They're everywhere. We need backup now. Sending reinforcements your way.
And we get all these lovely visuals of them swarming around, jumping on people, that just winning through overwhelming force and pure numbers, I suppose.
This is Zeta Team. High Council in position. Holding perimeter. Repeat, High Council is secure. This is Commander Rourke. The entire High Council is here to personally oversee our victory. We will hold the perimeter at all costs.
I hated that line when I first played this. The entire High Council is here. So if it wasn't transparent that this was going to be a rush story enough at the start when Dr. Dominguez turned out to be the leader of Trinity, no, they want to close this down now. It could not be more obvious that they're not interested in telling this story about Trinity, that they don't want Trinity to be the definitive thing about, like, this edition of Lara, and they want it all over. So even though the story's not even really accurately talking about who Trinity are and what they've been doing all this time, they've decided, no, let's throw the whole High Council in here. Once this is over, we want no room for speculation that Trinity will ever be involved again, and they just throw them all in. Why is the entire High Council of this global spanning organization all here at once? Well, obviously they're just hand-waving that. Obviously they don't want you to think about that, and I think it's terrible. Seriously, try going back to replay Rise now, hearing about all their storied history, everything they're doing, just to realize the entire High Council and command structure is going to hand-wavedly die randomly in this scene. We get a cool moment of the helicopter getting jumped on by a bunch of Ix-Chel, though, and knocked out. We don't actually do any fighting, you'll notice, just a bit of platforming.
Almost there. Where's Dominguez?
He's inside the temple. We're so close.
Thank you, Kukulkan, for this gift of renewal. We are prepared to receive your power. They're with you?
I do like this moment, wondering what he knows about the Ix-Chel.
This ritual is mine to complete. They've chosen wrong. It's all wrong.
No. It was always theirs. Give us the box.
No. Never. I must protect Paititi.
We all create destiny. Not just you. All of us. Together.
I believe she's quoting from Unuratu there. Maybe it has meaning as well. Maybe something to do with Sayuri's death. I don't really remember, to be honest.
Headstrong to the end. Attack!
I can't help but feel like all these goons look really goofy as well in this scene. In most of the scenes.
This is Commander Rourke. All remaining units hold the perimeter. Breach the gate! All units, consolidate on choke point. And, gentlemen, do not let the enemy through. Hold them at all costs. The ritual is nearly complete.
So, we get a fight! Oh my god, I'm actually using a gun. We get a fight. Now, what was that? This is the hardest difficulty. 3 soldiers.
You will all be saved, and those who gave their all will be rewarded.
Yeah, I'm sure they would be. You know what? I wish his argument there was a little bit more convincing, so maybe more people would fight us. You know what I think the problem with this game is? They probably designed it to have a lot of fights. That explains all the guns and the perks and stuff. But reviews for the previous game, and especially 2013, was that the combat was, you know, not a highlight. So then they stripped so much out, I guess hoping for better reviews. But there's essentially no game here anymore. And we're at the end. Surely they could put a bit more pressure on us. There you can hear Trinity turning on Dominguez a little bit as well, which is kind of nice. You know, he calls him sentimental. And well, check it out. Oh, the purple text, guys, that's Rourke whenever. What does that mean? That means the guy in that tank up there that's already crashed, that's Rourke. You'll notice we did not get a cutscene. We did not get a big moment, you know, identifying that he's here. You could easily play through this sequence not realizing the major story moment that is apparently unfolding right now. And that is, yeah, we're going to kill Rourke. Rourke is kind of, I guess, a mini-boss before the final boss. But as you'll notice here, I just kind of shot a couple of times. There he is. And the Ix-Chel do it. I guess maybe technically the Crimson Fire. Yeah, she herself does it.
I'm surrounded. Out of ammo. No! Please! No!
And you know, I want to applaud this. I want to say, oh look, that's Lara's darker side. That's the part of death, and you know, that's revenge. And Lara was never meant to take revenge on all of this. You know, she was meant to be moving on. She's got a new path. She's going to find true happiness. She's going to get over her trauma. Chak-Chel can deal with all that crap. I want to praise that, you know, because that's a big moment. This is like the biggest kill, really, as far as Lara should be concerned. But no, I just kind of hate it. It feels totally incidental. I think one of the biggest issues I have with this whole game is that it seemed throughout the Survivor trilogy they should build a coherent narrative across all 3 games, and they very clearly decided in Shadow they didn't actually give a crap about that. That's why they're killing Trinity off now here, so that the people of the next product don't have much that they need to pay attention to or watch for.
I'm going after Dominguez to stop the ritual.
We'll hold them off as long as we can.
It's like, okay, so you're abandoning your own story. If you don't care about it, why should I? It's the same thing with ArenaNet and Dragonstorm. And that's also why the Uncharted games are so much better, because Naughty Dog did care about the IP and the ongoing story. They didn't worry about the fact that some audience members wouldn't be able to jump straight back in. You know, it's like Shadow. If they really wanted to cast away all those old storylines, they should have fully cast them away. On this, they kind of put their foot half in. They kept Trinity around, but then they didn't properly pay off on any of the threads people cared about. You know, people often talk about these new games not doing respect to the classics, you know, because they're so... They don't even do respect to their own games in their own trilogy. So that is the dramatic conclusion of the Rourke stuff, guys. I'll tell you what, if any of you ever go back and watch my Rise of the Tomb Raider playthrough, having seen this story, I would love a comment about how you feel in that sniper scene out in the snow at the end. I really, really would. So here we get a little bit more platforming, and as you can see, it's kind of janky. This is a weird one where I have chalk turned off. So I don't really know where to jump, and on the one hand I kind of like that I'm getting a bit of gameplay out of this. On the other hand, this is the actual solution here. I haven't cut, by the way. There's almost no cuts here. I'm trying to get as much footage out of this as possible because it's not a long sequence. So the solution there was to jump towards one of the golden bricks. The issue before was that I jumped towards one of the golden bricks. So that's a bit of a shame. Here, you look at just how janky most of this platforming is. You know, I want to say with this final sequence that they kept it very simple on rails, just so that the last thing players experienced wouldn't be bitter in some way. They don't really want you struggling, they don't want you quitting, they want you to hit that credit screen feeling good, because that equals good reviews and whatever. But even then, if that's why this is all so simplified, why is all of the platforming still so janky? I mean, look at that. I need to press E to hit on and hook onto that around the corner. And Lara just failed. Not that I messed the jump up in any particularly egregious way there, guys. You know, maybe I need to swing a little bit more. I think I tried this twice, and it fails twice. Look, see? So that's twice in a row. And now and I guess the one nice thing here is this checkpoint that's really close, right? Because they definitely don't want me rage quitting out at this point. So now I do a little bit more of a run-up, maybe. And this time the camera seems a bit... Oh, no, I guess I'm trying again. Here we go. And now the camera does a slow-mo, so now I'm allowed to press E, you know? Like, I'd already figured that strategy out. Oh, it gets even more janky here now. Yeah, look, I hit these rocks. And I'm floating around, and then we fall. Yeah, sorry, Lara, I guess you don't save you don't save the gate. You don't save the day because there was dish soap on that, and you couldn't quite figure out how to latch onto it. I mean, really? And it's not like this is an early patch as well. Like I say, the game's quite old at this point. I actually failed this time, so I think the real problem here is you're supposed to see those rocks coming at you and dodge to the side, and it might be a thing, again, where on the lower difficulties, it might slow-mo that for you, so it's like a trap, and you know to dodge out of the way. Maybe, but I'm being pretty forgiving with it there. So this time I just make sure I land on the right as I connect to it. I think at this point as well, we've got a mini checkpoint. You can see the pretense this time. We did this a lot in Tomb Raider 2013. Climb a big wall, and as you do so, you know, you got to dodge stuff that's falling at you. Oh yeah, and these bricks and things fall. I think I'm actually going to have another death here now, because certain bricks fall. And yeah, we're just trying to get to the top, which is kind of the pyramid. We're actually, you don't really get the feeling for it in the moment, but we're actually scaling a pyramid here, which is one of the things I wanted from this game. It doesn't feel like we're scaling a pyramid, it's more that we're just scaling a massive wall. But yeah, the story is there, I suppose. All the texture here that we're clinging onto with our picks as well. I think I die here. It all looks like it's going to crumble and break away, right? Like it's got all those cracks. Yeah, like I was holding right to jump towards that to then throw and start abseiling. Seriously, I was holding right, but she didn't want to do it. So yeah, then we climb again, and as you can see, I got a little bit of a checkpoint here. And voila, well, second time's the charm. It works. There is kind of a nice thing going on here, I think. If you guys remember when we very first started this game, you know, you're on the plane and then it does the flashback and you're in the cave. The first thing it teaches you is this move and the overhanging climb. You know, this was the new trick in Shadow. The other thing was swimming in underwater, which this entire end sequence began with. So the very last bit of platforming they ask you to do to get to the top is kind of her new move.
Let the sun dip. The darkness erase the world we have known. Let the shadow pass, and the light shine again on the world of our creation.
The low stakes, I think, partly come from the fact we don't really know what success for Amaru would look like here. Maybe not that bad, right?
The power of Kukulkan.
So it was a very big thing with the Survivor Trilogy where they held blatant magic off until right at the end. Natural disasters, the true nature of the Ix-Chel, all that stuff. It's all like maybe science, maybe magic, you know, maybe coincidence, and then they just, you know, go no holds bar at the very end.
Destroy any who will destroy your power and potential.
So this is it, the boss fight. And as I said, I actually technically originally recorded this just to remind myself of how it goes, so I can be more informed next time. And now I'm showing you that footage anyway, so you'll have to forgive me for not exactly remembering how the boss fight works. It kind of has two phases. The first phase is this, where you can stealth. See, they've got an interesting thing going on here, where the game was supposed to be about, like, guerrilla warfare, climbing trees, stringing people up, covering yourself in mud so that they can't see you anymore, hit and run tactics. And then they gave us all the same cover-based, you know, environments as you've had in the other games. They give you automatic machine guns, they give you grenades, all kinds of stuff, so you don't really have to do it. But here in the final boss fight, they do still have mud around, if you like. They do still have trees. I'd be quite interested in watching a run of this game where someone only ever does stealth kills. But so, unfortunately, I'm going to be ignoring most of that stuff. I will, however, drink a lot of my potions and stuff. And again, this is where the low ammo becomes a thing. You know, I've been mentioning, oh, if you have low ammo, it might be a bit harder. And yet, there's almost no one to fight the whole time. Well, that's because I think there's infinite enemies here. Or there are a lot of enemies now, if you choose to fight them. So, phase 1... but they give you loads of ammo pickups here, which you do have to keep collecting. Is in each corner we've got these guys, willing participants of the rituals. We've heard nothing in the story, obviously, about who these guys might be. I choose to believe that they are other members of the High Council, just to maybe give a little bit more meaning to this. It looked like they're dying or being tortured or suffering or something. That guy I just shot in the crotch. Sorry about that, sir. But then when we break the statue, they get really mad at you. And it seems they're actually perfectly healthy and perfectly fine. Which, again, it just kind of makes me think, oh, okay, hold on. What if we let him complete this? What if we let him remake the world? You know, and Paititi can be hidden and there isn't suffering or whatever else he's going to try to do. You know, does it have to be a cursed monkey paw? Does his wish have to not come true, you know? So yeah, I'm just trying to use a range of our equipment and stuff. And the biggest, most unfortunate thing here is at the end of the previous episode, I bought that perk to be able to fire 2 arrows at 2 targets at once. Actually, 3 arrows at 3 targets at once. And, well, I don't have that anymore. So we could have maybe got a little bit of use out of it here, and we don't in the end. There's that helicopter flying around as well, and it does sometimes shoot the platform, but I've never taken any damage from it. I think it's a purely cinematic thing. I'm pretty sure in the LAU timeline, I think actually Tomb Raider Legend itself, the final boss, you're on like this giant stone dais, and there are helicopters shooting you in that final boss fight. So maybe it's referential to that or something, I don't know, or it's just, you know, a trope that they've wanted to use a couple of times by coincidence. So you're going to break all 4.
Nothing will stop me remaking the world.
Today, we take control of our destiny.
And yeah, I guess Amaru has become just a straight-up sun god here. He's not the most interesting idea for a final boss. I miss the franchise when we'd, like, fight dragons and giant mutants, you know, the size of buildings. But he at least is something, and I've got to credit this game for one thing at least. And this is more of a boss, as far as the Survivor Trilogy is concerned, this is more of a boss fight than we experienced in the other 2 games. If you remember Matthias at the end of 2013, it was just a quick time event, and then that, like, theatrical moment where you're dual-wielding the pistols, which was fun, but it wasn't much gameplay there.
Match a god! I have allowed you to live now. No more.
Here, it is real combat. It is real gunplay. There's a bit of melee in there. There are the stealth options, it seems. Though I mostly just opt to shooting him with the machine gun for as long as possible, and it's fine. I like that little line there as well, where he says, my whole life has been building to this. You can't match a god. And Lara is only just kind of a tourist that's wandered in through here and doesn't really have much connection. Actually, on that note, in the final cutscene in a second... Well, I guess I'm jumping the gun. You know, Lara has a life outside of Petiti. Let's just remember that, okay? So also there's a fun thing there. So the idea is we shoot him. Eventually he's glowing after he takes enough damage. And then you run up and press F. And there's no quick time event or anything like that there. So here, this is the F phase. And then you get a little cutscene.
Paititi is mine to protect, not yours!
And the cutscenes are good, you know. Every time that happens, he's a bit weaker, and you get more of a stab in, or you hit him somewhere more vulnerable, and you realize he's not immune. And that's kind of cool. That's a very Tomb Raider thing as well. You know, they never used to put health bars on. There's no health bar here as well. Is this magical thing you're fighting actually possible to take down? You never really know. And they do that really well with this fight. Every little cutscene... Oh my god, he actually does take damage. Oh, we can win. We can do this. We can do this. You know, he calls you arrogant when you miss and stuff. It's good. I think that all that stuff's fine. There is a kind of odd thing that I think might be some cut content, which is whenever you press F on... Oh yeah, and every time you do that, more guys respawn, and you get a checkpoint. So there's not really any stakes. It's not that scary. If you die, the checkpoint is always really close, and I think I am going to die in a second. But yeah, you might have noticed in these little cutscenes when we press F on Amaru, there is a bit of a weird moment where Lara stabs him, and now the dagger she has, and that is literally the dagger, by the way, that we grabbed, started the apocalypse from the start, and the dagger is now glowing gold. And I think actually the second time you hit him, she steals it in the middle of the cutscene, like it's there at our side right now. And I feel like they wanted us to be able to fight with it now. So I started pressing F, thinking, "Oh god, is she gonna attack him with the dagger? That's so cool, like the energy-infused dagger." But she doesn't. She just continues using her pickaxe. So like, what's this? Real close here. Look.
Attack all you want, but Bukukan will only make me stronger.
So it's good. It's good weighty animations. Again, the mocap's really good. But look, it powered up, it was at our side, and then it depowers real quickly. So I'm convinced there was going to be like some knife gameplay or something here. Why was that cut? Who knows? Time to constraints. Maybe they felt that Lara at this point shouldn't be shanking people. If she's still using a knife to attack people, is it too reminiscent to the Porvener Fields murder scene where she had the breakdown? And she's supposed to be like... She's supposed to have gone on a journey now, and they haven't written her going on a journey, for Christ's sake, but, you know, it would have been really obvious that she hasn't gone on a journey if here we're just knifing around constantly. And that is a shame, because now it's like you've written a whole story about this knife, you've got a really cool idea for the final set, and got cold feet about it. Or that's how it seems to me. So yeah, I'm constantly chronically low on machine gun ammo. But, yeah, he shoots me, and I get game over. Now, you might think, oh, do we have to do the whole fight again? No, it's just that last bit. I'll credit as well the cinematography here again. The eclipse at the top, it's pretty cool. The fire, the helicopters around. You know, they do get at least some sense of ambience. Like, watching this footage back, it would be cool for me to climb that tree, you know. I wonder whether you can actually kill Amaru himself using stealth stuff. Like pure melee. So yeah, just to ensure that I actually win this time, I decide to run around grabbing, you know, as much ammo as I possibly can. The other threat from him is he has this TP ability. You can see there he's charging up, not because he's low, but because he's looking to teleport behind us, and then he has like that fire grab looking attack, which is quite good. Actually, the very first thing that we saw him do in this fight was use that teleport, so I get the sense that they thought it was going to be a really big animation. Mostly I just ran around spamming dodge, and it didn't seem to do much. Here on this penultimate strike, we stab him in the back, and he's just completely unhinged now, just laughing away. So yeah, how many times is that you got to press F on him? I think 5? 4? Unless you don't get a checkpoint at exactly the end of every moment. It's kind of hard for me to tell. I do want to shoot these explosives and also get some more damage in, but it just kind of never lined up for, you know, exactly when I needed it. So, he's right on my ass here. I get a bit of ammo. We unload an entire clip into him. He TPs. Here's the goons that weren't doing much. I think I lost visibility on them really easily because I am technically covered in mud right now. And with all the perks we've got, like, it turns them into idiots, really. Like, very, very weak AI. I've actually seen a review where someone was saying that the AI for the enemies in this game are substantially worse than the AI for the enemies in the previous game, Rise. I didn't really notice that, to be honest. And whenever they were being idiots, I tended to assume, yeah, it's because I got various perks. I'm not saying that's an excuse. I don't think it is, but, you know. And we get a little bit of shotgun gameplay as well. Christ knows what the best gun actually is for all of this. You know, we've got such a huge selection of them. Having the silencer on probably doesn't matter. But there you go. That's the final one. And see, for the final cutscene, she actually, she stabs sympathetically this time. And suddenly we're acting like we're best friends. Major emotional whiplash, but you're supposed to be feeling sad and tragic now.
I'm sorry.
Protect my titi. Please. Please, Lara.
I won't.
Oh, why did you say that? Why did you make that promise? Okay, just to pause for a second here. I get the idea that, you know, anyone dying is sad, right? So and Shadow of the Tomb Raider is not the first game to commit this sin of having a high action sequence suddenly cut next to a cutscene that's asking a very different emotion of you, and it doesn't really work, right? I get that dying is sad, and actually, I even kind of like Dr. Dominguez as a character. I do think he has a backstory I can empathize with. I do feel kind of bad about how everything went. So I don't think that they're too wrong to have this time with this cutscene. It was just, you know, the way that they mashed it together. And I get why he, as well, as he would die with his last breath, would say protect Paititi. That's all he ever wanted to do. Though they left it far too vague on exactly how he was going to accomplish that with the box and the dagger or whatever. But don't have Lara. I know, maybe she's just consoling a guy that's dying or whatever, but they really didn't have to write this into the end of this story. Lara saying, I will, puts her on a weird path now, where, again, what were we just saying? She's a tourist, she's a foreigner, she's an outsider, she spent barely any time with Paititi. Even in this video series where I've gone through and montaged and collected everything, I don't feel connected to these people. I am not the one to protect them. Ix-Chel is, or they, the citizens themselves are. This is not Lara's destiny. She does not belong at Paititi. And yet, because they've written this in, the ending now, and it's very goddamn short, by the way. If you're looking for a lot of emotional resolution, you're not going to get it. There's very, very little dialogue left. They put her in that dialogue. They set her on this weird path where it's like now she's obligated to hang around Paititi forevermore, or for a long time. And it just kind of ruins some of these later scenes coming up. Like, if the whole purpose of this has been to get her past her trauma, set her on the road as the Tomb Raider, the Lara Croft we all know and love from the LAU and from the classic games, to give her a clean slate, we've got rid of Trinity. If that's the point of all of this, well, now you've just thrown this other thing in where it's like, oh no, she also is obligated to hang around Paititi, by the way, and in every story you ever experience with her, every comic, every novel, every random bit of third-party junk that they put out, or even first-party main series game junk that they put out, you'll get, even with the unified Lara, you're going to be constantly wondering, why isn't she at Paititi, fulfilling her obligation to those people? They didn't need to do this. Ugh, you'll see as this goes along. There's some cutscene jank there where she's actually screaming in agony, but they've put the voice cue to almost nothing. And I guess since we're all golden now, technically we have the power of the sun gods. We can do whatever we want. Lara didn't really do anything. She didn't perform the ritual like Amaru did, but they sort of forced this onto Lara here and hand-waved the logistics. Don't think too hard about it, guys, because what they're trying to do is push us into a sentimental scene at the end. So remember how we heard that she was going to be tempted and she must stay true to her path?
To claim her treasure, the adventurer, Lara Croft, must outwit the king.
Outwit the king? I think the king might have something to say about that.
My loves, will you hold still for a second?
Yes, my white queen. One.
Can I see?
Of course. There's you, and me, and your dad.
Where are we?
Hawaii.
With this key and the silver box, we can remake the world without weakness, cruelty.
If you had that power, what would you do?
My brave girl, who is not expecting a jaguar attack.
That's a good line, considering how grim the Jaguar attacks have just been, you know. Nice thing to reflect on.
Where shall we go next for our real adventure? I hear the Antarctic is lovely this time of year.
Dad.
Oh no, then perhaps the salt flats of Utah.
Oh, Richard.
I know where we're going.
You do?
Hawaii.
Oh yes, yes, that could be really nice. Well, in that case.
Goodbye, Mum. Goodbye, Dad.
No. You're my research assistant.
Oh yes, you're quite right. I'm sorry, Mom.
This scene is okay. It would have hit me harder if they had been more clear about the cost of following your dreams once you have the dagger in the box. What is so wrong with bringing these people back? But, you know, Lara has set the past aside. She's thinking about the future. It's kind of nice the family's wondering where their adventure will be, because that's what the fan base is thinking about in this final cutscene as well. Antarctica was a location in the previous game, you know. They're clearly hinting at stuff like that. We get the achievement for true 100%, so hooray, that's good.
When the catastrophes come, the god Kukulkan must be sacrificed to power the sun. Otherwise, the world dies.
Sacrifice a god?
Okay, now we go completely cuckoo. No matter how much I analyze this story, I don't know why this stuff is here. I guess we're Kukulkan now because we had the gold in us, right?
The sacrifice is my duty. But if my training fails me, the Crimson Fire will guide me and hold me to my promise.
This beat is cool, you know, sacrifice being a big part about, you know, the culture here.
I like this world.
But it needed real setup.
It's not perfect. But everything I love now is in it.
After today, the eclipse will no longer represent us. We keep the sun, but you remove the shadow.
Protect Paititi. Please. Please, Lara.
I will.
So we didn't die. So it's not really a sacrifice? So, like, why is that at the end of the game? That is some of the most forced high-stakes melodrama that is introduced and then evaporates. So, as fast as I've seen in any form of media. I mean, really, that just screams as desperately trying to have something cool at the end. But really, it's just a bunch of waffly weird stuff that makes no sense. But Lara was willing to die to protect the people, I guess. There, isn't that nice? 2 days later.
Unuratu. My mother. A warrior. A rebel. A queen. She will be venerated for generations. I miss you.
Ix-Chel found his way back into the voice acting booth, so that's nice. Yeah, as you can see, he had no role to play in the action sequence. Not did Jonah or anything.
Now, we will heed her spirit to reunite Paititi.
The music's awesome. Through all these cutscenes, it's been really good. The music, the visuals, you know, these are really talented artists, and they're unfortunately getting bundled with a bunch of slop.
Thank you.
And so I guess that's the little trinket. Lara's given it back. See, she's taken the shadow away, and now she leaves in the sun.
So I'm head back to Kwakyaku tomorrow.
Really? Missing the jungle? Off in search of the elusive fish tree?
Abby and I are headed to the coast for a few days.
I'm glad.
What about you?
I think I'll stay here for a while longer.
And restore a few more artifacts?
I don't know.
So what will you do?
I don't know. Ix-Chel will help me figure it out. He'll let me know what Paititi needs to rebuild.
Wow.
I'm done searching. I want to be around the living.
So there you go, there's the line. She wants to be around the living.
All right.
Don't you have to pack or something?
Now you are stuck with me till tomorrow.
You're welcome to stay as long as you wish, Lara. Safe travels, Jonah. Once Paititi is restored, perhaps I can join you and learn more about the world beyond Paititi.
Anytime. You just say the word. You too, Uchu?
If he wants to.
So, Jonah, Lara tells me you have a girlfriend. We will come to the wedding.
Whoa.
Ix-Chel, why don't you show me the plans for the new temple?
Yes.
And so there's the credits. You know, let's end with a nice little bit of sentimental. Oh, let's talk about weddings. People like that at the end of stories, don't they? And the credits come up. Honestly, guys, out of all games I think I've ever played, when I first played this back in 2018 and that credit screen hit me, I think that's the worst I've ever felt looking at a credit screen. I know that sounds ridiculously, like, over the top and hysterical, and it probably is. But man, I was just like, I cannot believe that's it. I can't believe that that's the whole game's over, you know, and the whole trilogy's over. All of Survivor's done. Because remember, even back at launch, they were very clear that this was a trilogy and you know, was coming to a complete story. And I thought, oh my god, there's just like no story here, or they've abandoned all the story that they used to care about, and I just did not feel good. So I don't know how you guys feel having watched this, with me ranting in your ear, obviously, probably bias and colour a few opinions. Just to put a cap on that thing there as well, with Lara saying, oh, look at the new plans for the temple. So yeah, basically, they've now put her into a place where, what, she's the architect of Paititi? I watch that now and start thinking to myself, you know, what skills does she even have to offer these people? Yeah, she's an academic, and she understands certain things about their mythology and their way of life. She's, you know, clearly got some linguistic skills. But does she really want to live among these people? Does she really know anything about them, have any connections? What can she offer them? What, she's going to build temples now? Is that your suggestion to me, Crystal Dynamics, Eidos Montreal? She spent all this time destroying tombs in the search of the dead and her father. Now she wants to be among the living, so what, she's going to build a city with them? I mean, it kind of works in an on-paper kind of way, but really, we want to see this character that we root for going out on adventures, and they just don't seem interested in that. It sort of felt like through all of these games, they've just been desperately trying to retire or redefine Lara. Like, they weren't happy with the classic Laras, so they decided to go back and tell an origin story where they could have someone a little bit more vulnerable. And ostensibly, the whole idea of these 3 games as an origin story is to put her to a place where she's recognizable as the character we used to know. And they haven't done that. They've instead created this character that's going to live among, you know, this society and build temples and things for them. And I don't know how that tracks with anything that the fans have really been asking for. You know, there's this other thing. I think I mentioned it in episode 1 of this Let's Play. There was that leak. Like, clearly they were writing a story for the next Tomb Raider. It got leaked because people realized it was bad, but maybe some of the higher-ups didn't, or the writers didn't realize. It got leaked and everyone hated it, and it was this idea that Lara was going to be a school teacher, you know, and she's training the new generation of Tomb Raiders. And everyone said, well, what, this is ridiculous. This isn't who we want Lara to be. It seems they want her to be like an architect or school teacher or something, someone in the background they're trying to escape from her. And it's like, come on, why is this franchise in control of writers who don't really seem to care for the character very much? And I personally don't care that much about Lara. I wouldn't be that up in arms about having other characters to play. I wasn't up in arms about the idea with Angel of Darkness. I can see a Tomb Raider without Lara, but clearly the fan base doesn't like that idea, so don't bother with it. What's with all the redefinition? What do you hate so much about her? But anyway, I guess I'm getting a bit rambly. There you go, that's the end of the game. Now, normally with my Let's Plays, we hit the credit screen, and we have a bit of a chat, we do a bit of a review. The past few episodes have mostly just been me reviewing it, right, in one way or another. And so I'm not going to do that here. In fact, I'll speed the credit sequence up. There is a post-credit scene for us to watch. But also, this is not the last episode of this LP, because what did I say to you guys? That I didn't like this game very much, but I'd never played the DLCs, and apparently the DLCs round the game out very well. Now, we've already played through a bunch as this series has gone along, and they haven't really changed my opinion at all. You know, they've had a bit more tomb raiding, woo. But one of them, I think, takes us back to Croft Manor. It explains a bit more about the Ix-Chel. So, join me next time for the post-credits DLCs. We'll be exploring the game again. We'll already be at 100%. It's just those storylines. And I don't know how long that's going to take. Is it going to be an episode, 2 episodes? I guess we'll see. But thanks very much for watching, guys. Hopefully this has been fun to watch. If you think I've been unfair to the game, go down to the comments. Give me some walls of text. I'd really love to read them and see what we think. You know, and I really did like some of those from earlier in the series. So just before this ends, we'll take a look at the post-credit scene as well and see what we think about that. These credits are so long, guys. Like, I sat there watching a lot of this when I recorded it. Just thinking, look at all these people, you know, and then it's got like Square Enix, and then Square Enix Europe, and then Square Enix Germany, and then Square Enix France. Towards the bottom, they have this amazing wall of text buried in here. Check this out. Tomb Raider community. The first steps towards rebooting the Tomb Raider franchise were taken in 2007, a full 6 years before the Endurance first set sail in 2013. 11 years later, Lara Croft's reimagined origin story is drawing to a close. They don't say it has closed, but I think that's because they're accounting for the DLCs. Over the period of 3 games developed by hundreds of passionate professionals, whose names we've just been looking at scrolling by, across multiple development studios and publishing branches, Lara has evolved from an untested adventurer to a survivor, and ultimately into the Tomb Raider. They just declare that there. Is it earned? Your decision there, guys. We have grown alongside Lara, pushing ourselves to deliver the high quality and cutting edge experience that you deserve. Thank you to our official Tomb Raider fan sites and the hardworking webmasters who run them. So I don't know, whether that quote rubs you the wrong way or not, I guess will just depend on how well you think that they did things here. And you know, there's nothing wrong with telling a different story. Let me be very clear about that. They also have a couple of messages there thanking cosplayers and stuff, and a nice little sign-off saying, we're very grateful for all fans, old and new, for coming on the journey with us, which is a nice olive branch to extend to the classic fans, who tend to be just massive haters. Anyway, here's the post-credit scene.
I had it all wrong. I thought that taking control of my life meant venturing out to do something extraordinary. I thought I had to fix everything. But the mysteries of the world are to cherish more than to solve. I'm just one of their many protectors.
Artifacts from the recent games in her home?
I'm not sure what the future has in store, Jonah. But whatever adventure's on the horizon, I can't wait to meet it.
Which is kind of how we saw her in the classics.
I'll try not to take myself too seriously.
Responding to the critics with that comment, maybe?
Hey, Miss Croft.
Lovely. For now, it just feels good to be home.
And of course, this picture here, we have a dinosaur, we have the, you know, the Egypt picture and idea, which are all big parts of what we consider Lara to be, and what we think about with Tomb Raider games, and have been absolutely absent throughout the Survivor trilogy. Much like the main ending of the game, there's really not much to chew on there, you know, and it's over. So there you go, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I will see you on the next part where we get the extended epilogue, the final DLC stuff, and I hope you have some fun over there. Let me know what you think. I'll be looking eagerly at the comments, and until next time, guys, take care of yourself.